right, welcome back to Jail Talk. We have a new episode this week. Again, joined with Kylie Ekron, our field marketing manager. I'm Rob McAfee, vice president of sales. This week we have a couple of special guests with us. We're very happy to have one of our great friends, long-term employee, Melissa Bjergo. Introduce yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? And tell everybody about yourself.
Well, thank you. First off, yes, thank you for having me on today. I'm very excited. So yes, I do know a lot of you because I was here for a long time. Yeah. So it's great to be back. I love coming back to visit everybody here, and I try to do it at least monthly. So it's great to be invited for this. I am, like he said, Melissa Bjergo. I am now with NIJO, the National Institute for Jail Operations, and I've been doing that for a little over a year.
Yeah, NIJO, one of our great partners here at Turnkey, and they do so much for jails and jail staff and jail management, jail administrators around the country. And so with that being said, we also brought in Donny Knutson. And Donny, tell everybody about yourself, where you're from, and what you do.
Well, I'm from the Pierce County Sheriff's Office, currently lieutenant in the jail. I'm local, born and raised here around the River Falls area in Ellsworth. So I've been with the Sheriff's Office for about 18 years.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I've recently been promoted to the lieutenant position, taking over an administrative role in the jail.
Right.
So.
Very good. And Donnie's a great partner of ours as well. So we do a lot of our experimentation with Pierce County. Donnie's like, hey, let's try it. We can put it in here and work it out. So it's been very helpful for us to have you as a partner. Now, we did bring you to talk a little bit about the Elite Academy. So NIJO, Melissa, let's talk a little bit about NIJO and what they do. So you have several events around the country, some regional trainings, some management trainings there, and then you also have the Elite Academy. So talk a little bit about what the regional trainings are, the JailCon conferences are, and then how Elite differs from those and what that is.
Absolutely. So yeah, like Rob said, we have our JailCon trainings. We have 3 of those a year. We actually just got back last week. We had our JailCon West in Arizona, and getting ready for now JailCon South, which we're excited is down in Mobile, Alabama, which is a great partner of yours. Yeah. So we're excited to be working with them. So those trainings are a little bit more like your, I would say, state conferences. It's great for all of your jail staff, correctional officers, obviously up to command staff level.
Sure.
They're broken out by a bunch of different categories and breakout sessions. And then, we have our big vendor hall, obviously, which you guys are great supporters of.
Love it.
So more of a traditional conference. The Elite Academy kind of came about. We just realized there was a need for it. You guys and I say you guys because you used to wear that hat of working in a jail. There's not a lot of training out there for you and at that next level. And there's a lot of things that you guys deal with that you might not, if you get promoted into a command staff. So congratulations on your promotion. Getting into that lieutenant position, you're going to deal with things now that you might not have ever dealt with before. As a correctional officer, you don't have to deal with all of the legal things, going to court, testifying, all of that. And so Tate McCotter, who's our executive director, realized that there's a need for it. And there's a lot of really great trainings out there for patrol and for the roadside, but not necessarily on the corrections side. And so he saw that need and wanted to offer an advanced level of training, and that's where Elite Academy came from. And so we offer 2 of those a year. We have our Elite Class 6 coming up in September. In a couple months, and then in Class 7 is in February. Turnkey, we can't thank you enough, has been great supporters. You guys have sponsored at every class, so it's kind of cool now that we're going on Class 6. And the reason we wanted to have Donnie here was that he attended Class 5.
I did. I was actually a Turnkey sponsor. So I won one of their I guess they're
giveaways.
Scholarships.
Scholarships.
Yep. Put in for it at the Turnkey Conference and won a great training and very helpful from my new position. So.
So when you went, Donnie, when you noticed, I know, and I've been to Elite once already, and I know Kylie's been to Elite as well. But one of the things I noticed is that small group. But what was it about the training? When you look at it from an administration role, like what really made it valuable to you as an administrator?
Well, first of all, you mentioned that small town, or the small group, right? So, we had 25 people, I think, in our group. So you had that individual attention, and it was easy to ask questions. But you had big city experience in that group. Really big jails down to really small jails. My facility is an 80-bed facility, and we have facility, jail administrators there from 1,500 to 1,800 bed facilities. And we find that we all have the same problems. It's all about frequency, but how are the big facilities handling it? Big facilities get to see how our smaller facilities are handling it. Right. And every now and then you see them like, well, that's a good idea, Yeah. Sharing that information, that networking. The instructors were very knowledgeable, very experienced in their fields. And so we've called NIJO instructors, as Pierce County since the training, asking them their opinion on certain things and how do we handle this as a smaller jail, in Wisconsin. And so those long-lasting relationships through NIJO have really benefited us as a company, the inmates themselves, because they're getting things out of it too by sending us to this training. We're making sure we're compliant with the laws and all the different things that come with having challenging inmates or inmates of, different beliefs and those kind of things. So they're also gaining out of this. So you talk about compliance, maybe you can both hit on it. I know it's a big training point of Tate's and your organization and NIJO as a whole. Compliance is huge, right? And from an administrator standpoint, looking at liability, it's kind of the driving force, unfortunately, behind a lot of that policy decisions or procedures that are written. So how did NIJO come up with that idea? Is like, okay, this is where we're going to really help people. It's the legal-based policies and procedures, things like that. How was that Tate came to that conclusion?
So if you remember, if you've met Tate, he grew up in this. He always calls himself, you have the military brat. He always says he was the corrections brat. Okay. So his dad has worked across the country in different prisons and ran them, and he saw him get sued over and over and over again. So obviously he saw that that was a problem. And, I know all the sheriffs out there know that the jail is their biggest liability. And so that's kind of how everything got started was there was the need for it. And again, obviously needing more training. And so everything that NIJO does when they put on their trainings, it's all legal based. And I think Donny can attest to that that's a big focus of the training. They also offer, leadership things at the Elite Academy as well to help with that. But I'd say majority of it is all legal based.
I would say so as well, yeah. There's a big push in law enforcement over the last 5 years of that legal based training, whether it's on the patrol side or the corrections side. We just haven't seen it on the corrections side until NIJO has, pushed forward with this Elite Academy and all their other trainings and opportunities they have for us jails. So that until then it was, like figuring out the hard way, and that's, shouldn't be the way it has to be. Yeah. So, or the way we want it to be, for that matter.
Right.
So.
Well, and it's easy to get into, prior to having all this exposure to resources from NIJO, it can be easy to get locked into that responsive policy and procedure rather than a preemptive. And I think that's huge, being able to see, okay, well, here's a legal-based policy and procedure guideline, and I can base it on that. And it's specific to your state as well, correct?
Correct. At the Elite Academy, it's a broad stroke on national level issues, more so than individual state. Now, in the other trainings that NIJO provides, they do break it down per state and would, better train you in that specific case law for your state. But they're covering at the academy, in the 4 weeks or the week that we're there, the issues of the nation, right? How they can apply that to every jail.
So what are some of the hot button issues that you guys are seeing as far as your trainings? Like when you see, and both of you can answer this one, like obviously you're deciding on classes that you're going to offer, but you're also saying we need this probably as feedback. So what are the things you're seeing that everybody says, okay, well, we'd like to have a training on this, or we'd like to know more about this?
All right. Well, I did put a list.
Okay, great.
I knew I wasn't going to remember everything. But these are kind of the hot topics and the big items. Obviously, we cover a lot. And the thing I love about the Elite, obviously, it is a different level. You got to experience it. And again, I can't thank Turnkey enough. They've been a huge supporter, not only for being a sponsor at our conferences, but also offering scholarships for people to attend, which just is amazing because obviously you guys believe in training. So
for sure.
But the cool thing is obviously every class is different. So the topics can kind of change depending on the class. We actually had a guy from Kansas that attended his second Elite Academy. And we were kind of questioning him at first, like, you know, a lot of the things we do, you know, the big topics we kind of go over are the same for each class. But he said, but it's a different group and there's going to be different questions. And obviously you can only remember so much of what you learned the first time. And so it was awesome to have him back again. But he said it was neat to see how the questions and obviously the different size jails are going to affect kind of, you know, the conversations and where they go. But you did mention, you know, some of the stuff. Some of the big things are writing policy and procedure. So they help with that. Creating budgets. You know, I don't know if you thought you were going to be dealing with that when you started, you know, how many years ago as a correctional officer that you were going to have to create a budget. So we help you with that. Putting together a staffing analysis. And then, like I mentioned, preparing to go to court and testifying. You know, some of these officers might not have ever had to deal with something like that. So we help to prepare you that. So some of our instructors are lawyers and attorneys, and so they help with those things. And then obviously managing and being a leader and managing your staff, which is huge. You know, there's a lot of companies that offer leadership training, so obviously we wanted to include that in there as well. And working with commissioners. Isn't that one of the fun things?
The political side. We don't talk about that enough, probably.
So those, I mean, there's obviously a lot more that we cover, but those are some of the bigger things that, you know, you don't get at your state conferences a lot, and especially on the corrections side. So, and I'm sure, is there anything else that you can add that you learned?
Well, I was just going to hit on those last three, like, you know, preparing for court, you know, and it's, you know, it was a lot of preparing, you know, your staff for court too, you know, like, yes, as jail administrators, we're responsible for everyone. So we do probably go to court more than the officer, but the officers have to go too for certain things. So it's preparing them. So train the trainer kind of thing, right? You know, we can take that on. Working with the county administrator, the budgets, the boards, those are big things. And, you know, when you start in this career in your 20s, that, you know those things exist and you know someone is dealing with them, but now it's us, right? And those are trainings that get left behind and don't get thought of. And so it was nice to have, you know, the role-playing skit that we have during the day, you know, during the training, you know, to do those kind of things, you know. One of those things I didn't think of going into this position. And then, you go to the training and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to do that. So that was great training.
I think you mentioned something, and I just want to, because we had you guys here for some staff meetings a few weeks ago, and I got to meet your staff, and you talk about getting people ready to testify or people that may have not ever done that before. I met your staff, and I was like, so who's been here the longest? And we laughed about it after, because you're 20, I think Allie is 20-something years in, and the staff was like, I've been here the longest, 6 years. And I was like, uh-oh. Yeah. And then everybody else was like 2.5, 3 years.
And it goes down
and
really
they
quick
don't know what they don't know.
Right.
Correct? So that training is huge for you to then be able to prepare them.
It is, yeah, because the staff, not only in our agency, everywhere, because there's been massive turnover in the corrections industry, so everyone's staff is really young and, you know, I hate to say inexperienced in the corrections field, at least, yes. So...
I think that's, I mean, and when Melissa mentioned the staffing things, I mean, it's one of those things we talk about with a lot of our guests on the show is like, what are you doing for staffing? You know, like, so how, I mean, when they go to address those things, again, you signed up as a corrections deputy 20 years ago, not as an HR person. So it's a big deal, right? It's a big deal to these jail administrators when you're training them these things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
I would say NIJO focuses on, you know, when we talk about, you know, managing employees, it's not in the training. It was more, you know, because there's two ways to manage, right? There's the negative aspect and there's a positive aspect. And NIJO focused more on the positive side. How do we encourage them? How do you know, give them praise and keep them, you know, excited about their career? And so versus, you can cut them down and you can discipline them, and that needs to happen. But if you focus on the positive, they are way more likely to succeed in this industry. Sure. They see enough negative on the day-to-day. So.
Yeah, right. Well, the trauma, I say trauma because it's the crisis intervention training coming back, the vicarious trauma that we all go through, right? That's a jail training, crisis intervention training. I'm sure we need to talk about that at some point too. But it's one of those things where it's a lot of you take all these things in, you're seeing people in their worst moment. Right. And so to be able to then provide positive feedback without, correction is necessary. Yes, there's got to be some correction to move on, but there has to be, what's that 7-to-1 ratio? You say 7 good things to make up for 1 bad thing. So you got to have that. Yep. So it's important. Talk a little bit, Melissa, about the JailCon events. I know we're here to talk about Elite, and we're going to talk more about it. But the JailCon events, I know you said it's more line staff involved, but they're regional and they're more accessible, and we do want to help people get to those too. So talk a little bit about those and kind of how people can find those and where they can see what to offer their staff for training.
Absolutely. Like I mentioned, we do 3 of those a year. I know there's other organizations out there that offer, the bigger one, but unfortunately not everybody can make it if it's only offered once a year. So we've tried to break them up. That's why we do the regional. So like I said, we just got done with West, that is always in June, and it is in Arizona.
Beautiful, cool Arizona.
It's 110 degrees in here. It was awesome.
There is a pool.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a pool.
Yeah. Luckily, the inside's air conditioned, so we spend a lot of time in there.
Yes.
And then we're getting ready, preparing for JailCon South. Like I mentioned, it's in Mobile, Alabama, in August. And then JailCon Central is in French Lick, Indiana, in October.
And that's a surprising place. I'd never been to French Lick. And to go there last year and participate, I'm pretty impressed with a little town in the nowhere, Indiana. It was pretty cool, pretty neat place.
Yeah. So we'll be back there again in October.
Yeah. Do you guys keep them at the same place every year, or do you guys eventually start moving around, or how does that kind of work for you guys too?
Right now, they're we always have the South one. That one did just move. Last year we were in Gulf Shores. We did have to move it just because of, sometimes we outgrow the hotels, which is a good problem to have. Mm-hmm. And so we're excited to be in Mobile. They have been amazing as far as the county itself, as far as helping us prepare, and they are really stepping up as far as being a host agency. So it does depend. Like I said, it's a good problem to have when we outgrow it and we sell out. So half of my job is working with the vendors and preparing for the vendor hall. Last year we sold out for JailCon West and for South, and so we did need a bigger space. So South has plenty of room this year, so we're excited for that. We had to kind of talk about JailCon West because we do have another year with our the same hotel, and we're trying to figure out how we can get more vendors in there. So, but it's a great training. So if you want more information, let us know.
Yep. And then I want to talk briefly. Donnie's brought
yes.
What is this, Donnie? You brought something with you.
So it is.
It's our secret.
Well, a little bit. If you attend Elite Academy, you can find out more about it. But that is our Elite Bar. So when you graduate, that is a gift from NIJO to say that you've been there and you are one of the group.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You can. I
know.
Yeah, don't tell anybody, right?
Yeah.
How we got it back here, we can keep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm sure that didn't go on the carry-on.
Yeah, well, it attempted.
We had a little issue this year with that one.
That's right.
But no, it's a great representation of raising the bar. These guys, they took time and money to invest in themselves, and they went through a long week of training. But that's what we like it to represent, that they are raising the bar and a higher level of training.
It's a good constant reminder when you walk in your office of what you've done and the growth and where you want to be. So
and I can't say enough about the Elite. You mentioned I got to go, and I mentioned I got to go, but February in Midway, Utah, which is unbelievably gorgeous. It's like an old Schlitterbahn Hotel. It's beautiful. I don't know the name of the resort. I can't remember right now. Zermatt.
Resort,
that's right.
Yep.
And Zermatt is beautiful, and it's there's some really neat nighttime networking activities that are fun. and it's just a beautiful setting. And then the training, it was great. I got to go with Jason Lawrence, our Central States, or actually he's our Mississippi Valley territory manager, and he and I are both former jail guys. And so when we're sitting in there as a vendor that day, you get one vendor per day. We're there for the whole day, and we got to be part of the conversation. It was so awesome to just sit there, and they were talking about things that we could relate to, and that we, and nobody was like, why are you talking? So, I mean, it helped that we had mentioned, we were both jail guys, but it is great training. And the lawyer they had she's amazing and was incredible. Oh, here's how that would apply to you in a liability stance. So,
well, even
really
me, I don't come from the corrections industry, obviously, and I got to sit in February as well, and I loved it, just getting to sit there for the day and kind of following along through the packet and do the questionnaires and everything, and I learned a lot that one day. I mean, obviously, I didn't get to sit through like most of it, but even the one day, I learned a ton, so it was awesome.
Yep. I was fortunate when I was with Turnkey. I attended the first 2 classes.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I've always had respect for what you guys do. But that took it to a whole nother level, because learning about everything, we always hear the stories at the conferences of what you guys deal with, but sitting in that class, I mean, it took it to a whole nother level. Right. But this last year, I got to obviously sit longer because I was there for the whole conference. Yeah. I even came back with like tips on how to be a better wife. Yep. Right, yeah. Have you applied what you learned in relationships? And
absolutely, yeah. That was a whole day of the forms and going, and you look at those while you're filling them out, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's me, and so you know how to correct that and be better and grow yourself too. Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, it's to help you to be a better leader as well, but it's great to apply those back at home too.
Organizational dynamics are the same whether the organization is jail or a company or family. I think it's so important. We were talking about this yesterday, so
I do want to quick mention also. You had asked where it's located. That's another key point. I think you can probably talk a little bit about that too. We know what you guys deal with, and on a daily basis, and it's not always bad. Right. But when it is bad, like some of the stuff you deal with, like we can't even imagine. And so obviously your stress level is high. So yes, I mentioned it's at a resort in Midway, Utah. It is absolutely gorgeous. And we talk about that the very first day when they arrive, is that there's a reason why it's there. Sure. We want them to also relax and to, if we were in a big, busy city, you can't relax, but if you come to it, you'll be in
downtown New York City.
So there's a reason we also have it where we do, is because we want you guys to come in there. We want you to take a breath and
the views were very distracting. Actually.
Yeah,
It snowed 3 out of the 4 days during class, and it was like a Hallmark movie. Slow snow, and it was beautiful.
Yeah. So it doesn't ever snow here in the winter. I mean, at least for my experience. I've been here in Wisconsin for a year, so winter was pretty easy. I don't know. So. Well, that's really all we have. I really appreciate both of you guys joining us. It was really great to have you here. I know Kylie and I love bringing people that we're familiar with, but people that have a lot of knowledge. So thank you both for joining us. So Kylie, do you want to tell everybody where they can find us?
Yeah. Quick thing, though, I also want to give them the opportunity. So, Melissa, where can people find you at if they're ever interested?
At jailtraining.org. If you're interested in our training, just check out our website. We've got our jail cons on there as well as the Elite Academy. Otherwise, you can reach out to me as well. I don't know if I'll be able to put my
we'll put some contact info.
Melissa, Katie can put that on there.
I'll put my information out, but feel free to call me if you have any questions. But we would love to have you.
We'd love to sponsor you to attend. So next time we have that scholarship application, fill it out. So
absolutely.
Kylie, where can everybody find? Oh, sorry, Donny.
I was just saying, Donny wants to also, if anyone ever wants to reach out to Donny for questions of for his experience as well. If you want to,
you can reach out to me at donny.knutson at pierce.wi.us. And you can reach out to me with any questions, or if you're interested in employment, we are also.
That's right.
Good job. Your county will be proud of you.
Yeah. All right. Now I can tell everybody where you can find us. As always, you can find us on YouTube and Spotify at JailTalk Podcast. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or at turnkeycorrections.com.
All right. Thanks for joining us on Jail Talk. We'll see you next time.